Brown says, get that India. Big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a priest! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell killer!
Hello and welcome back to a special edition of the Tip Sheet Podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. I'm on my lonesome recording this introduction this week because this is actually a release of a chat that we had with Steve Georgallis earlier this week. We caught up with Steve, myself and Sixties, that is, having a chance to chat all things junior reps as well as the NRLW and obviously all the pathways involved along the way, including the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership. And on that general note with the junior reps, and before I go further into the podcast, since you recorded with Steve, news broke with the representative selections for the New South Wales City and Country squad. So we didn't have a chance to discuss that with Steve, but we'll take just a moment to give shout outs to the Parramatta Eels who earned selection in either squad. So we start with the under-16s boys, where on the City side of the field, Cyrus Bloomfield, one of the standouts of Parramatta Eels in the Harold Matthews, he earned selection. And he's there alongside the pair of outstanding back rowers across the course of the season, Michael Nauer and Samuel Polly, as well as Talon Rosati, who was outstanding at 5'8" for the Parramatta Eels. So given how well they played that season, going through undefeated through to the finals, where they were obviously beaten by the team that would go on to win the tournament in the case of the New Zealand Warriors, but very fair selections across the board there. We now go to the under-18s City side, where there is the lone selection for the Parramatta Eels, and that's Josiah Funa Iuta, who has been very consistent and obviously in good form in his junior year of SG Ball eligibility. So well done to Josiah there for earning selection in the City 18s, which now takes us to the Westpac under-17s girls teams, where on the City side, the Eels are well represented, starting with Kylia Gray. You've also got Logan Lamusu, Aaliyah Scrivens, Danielle Seckold, and Fontaine Tafua. Anyone that was following along with the Lisa Fiola this year would know all of those names, who were each integral to a very strong regular season campaign. Now we move on to the Westpac under-19s women's teams, where again on the City side, the Parramatta Eels have very solid representation. We start with Riverly Alo, then you've got Roy Muir, Rafaela Perigo, and Lindsay Tui. And Lindsay obviously being part of our NRLW squad. No surprise that she's in the mix for junior representative honours, but River, Rory, and Rafaela were also very important across the course of the season. River has a massive engine in the middle. Rory Muir was crafty at dummy half, and Rafaela Perigo was perhaps the breakout star of the team, showing superb ball skills at 5'8" and the ability to break a line or set up a line break of a variety of different ways. So well done to all involved there, which now leads us to a quick shout out to the sponsors of the tip sheet. Of course, that is Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan, and Parramatta, who help us get out each and every episode. So thanks to Greg and the team for the support they show to TCT and the tip sheet. All right, with all that preamble done and all the thanks and the well dones out of the way, let's jump into it and now chat with Steve Georgallis as he wraps up the 2024 season in the junior representatives, which means Elisa Fiola, Harold Matthews, Tarsha Gale, and SG Ball, as well as a look at what lies ahead for the NRLW. Hope you enjoy.
The junior rep season is now finished for all clubs, and with the dust settling for a few weeks, we thought it would be an ideal time to check in with Parramatta's Elite Pathways Coaching Director, Steve Georgallis. It also gives us an opportunity to talk with Steve about his other role as NRLW coach. Steve, thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks, Craig and John. I was talking about the junior representatives season. It was probably disappointing, making the finals and then all three going out in the first week. But, they had a massive effort to get to the finals, especially the Mats team being undefeated. And we were talking about the Warriors last time we had a chat, and it's all good to make the finals, but it's different competition once you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the Lisa Fiola Cup team. In my opinion, they were the dominant side for long periods of that semi-final loss to Newcastle. Some errors were ultimately costly. What learning points do the players take from this season?
I think you explained that game very well. And the biggest points they can take out of those sorts of games is that when you're playing in big games, those little errors or little decisions that you make in a game can cost you. Especially, I think we had a really good chat about momentum last time we talked, and in finals, it's all about momentum. And we had opportunities there to get back into the game, to change momentum. Bombed a try, gave away a penalty, or pushed a pass when we didn't need to, when we had plenty of time in the game to come back into it. I mean, they did really well to get back into the game.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing they'll learn from that. And they're a very young team. A lot of those players will back up for next year's Lisa Fiala. So, and again, as I said before, it was a great effort to make the finals, but obviously the team that was the number one team in the Lucy Fiala was the Bulldogs, and they won the grand final quite convincingly. So, yeah.
And you opened up our chat just now, mentioning our discussion from the last podcast about the threat that the Warriors posed to the Parramatta Eels in the Week 1 finals in the Harold Matts. To their credit, they ultimately ambushed not just the unbeaten Parramatta Eels, but they accounted for the unbeaten Bulldogs and the unbeaten Magpies en route to a maiden Harold Matthews grand final victory. All three teams undefeated. It's a phenomenal effort from the Warriors. But looking on our perspective, could things have been done better, or was it just a case of the Warriors, they caught fire at the right time of the year, playing phenomenal football?
I think because we were worried about the Warriors, all the coaching staff, just quietly thought that if any team could cause us trouble in the finals, it was going to be the Warriors, and unfortunately we got them first. Yeah. And again, that game was full of momentum. When we had it, we scored 2-3 tries. When they had it, they scored 2 or 3 tries. So at that age group, momentum's a massive thing, and they did really well to get back into the game. But a few players in that team probably chose that day to play not their best game, which is unfortunate, but things happen. And I think the Warriors were probably obviously the form team in the finals, and they deserved to win it. But they were much better than us on the day, and we got close to them. We got 1 try.
We stormed back into it, didn't we? But just the energy that the Warriors brought from the opening set really set the tone for them to race out. And I think they got to 24 points. Was it correct?
Early second half.
Yeah, early second half. Yeah. And then we mounted a serious comeback, but I think there was a drop ball in their attacking half that we had that sort of stymied the momentum we had.
Yeah.
So, like you said, we talk about momentum in these games, and it's amazing what a bit of possession, a bit of momentum does. Takes the game away from you, brings you back into it, and then takes it away from you again. So, important lessons there for both the boys and girls.
Yeah, and I think in both those grades, we didn't start well, and I think that goes back to the intensity of finals and understanding that it's a different ball game compared to the season games, finals games. It's do or die, and I don't think we started well in both games. And that's probably another thing that both groups can learn, that when you're playing finals, the intensity needs to lift another level, and it's too late to lift. When the game's sort of gone away from you, which happened in both grades. And and to both teams' credit, they came back, but it was just too late.
Yeah, and really, as you said, finals football, it's not only is it up there in intensity, but every match in that series, it didn't matter where the team finished. Yeah, every match, every team played was sudden death.
Yeah,
because even the teams that finished first and second, they got the bye in the first week, so their first matches were the preliminary finals, and again, it was sudden death. So that one error or mistake that's made can be season ending.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The Warriors' intensity in all 3 games that they played in to win the Harold Matthews, I think was far out in front of a lot of the other teams. And I mean, they did it tough. I mean, they had to fly into Sydney, play, go back home, fly back for the next game, go back home, and then fly back for the grand final. So it's a massive effort in itself, travelling and playing, and and credit to them. You don't want to say it, but at the end of the day, they deserve to win that competition with all the stuff they had to go through to actually play in those games.
And I guess too, with that being their younger group, they could be a juggernaut that's just been born in terms of the junior representative competitions as well. So
yeah, and we know what it's like when you've got a good Harold Matthews or a good SG ball team, and those players slowly filter through to your NRL.
Yeah.
It's good for that club, but it's good for our club as well. We've got some great kids coming through now, Harold Matthews, and as you said before, they were undefeated, and they'll learn a lot from that game.
Yeah, absolutely. The Eels Tarsha Gale team didn't qualify for the finals, and we reviewed them in our last podcast. Do you have an update on any players progressing through to the squads in the Eels senior team? Because I guess the one piece of the pathway that's missing for the girls at this stage is really an under-21s level. So are there any girls that are actually going up to the senior squad?
Yeah, so like we discussed before, and I think we talked about the pathways as a whole for the boys, and now the pathway for the girls is on parallel, except for that under-21s. So, we've got now, I think we're going to talk about it later, about the development teams that are coming through for the girls, and now they're all playing from 13, 14, 15, 16, Fiola, Jets program, Tarsha Gale, now into Harvey Norman, into NRLW. So it's a pretty extensive system pathway for these girls now. So going on what we discussed before, we've probably got 6 to 7 of the Tarsha Gale girls coming into the Harvey Norman squad. And whether they play or not, it's all dependent on injuries and form and how they go in the 8 weeks of train and trial. But there's 6 or 7 players that we've taken up, and obviously Lindsay Tui's NRLW, and River obviously will hopefully be one of those players that will improve with the standard of what players she's playing against. So we've got a lot of hope for her as well in the Harvey Norman too. I suppose the other girls are Raf, Caitlin, Bella, Layla Dimmick, Rory and Khaleesi are the other girls. So 7 all up. And I think we have 6 from the previous Tarsha Gale team that have come up as well. And unfortunately, they haven't played for 12 to 18 months.
Yes.
So they're itching to play. And I think those girls were Debbie Dewey, Alicia Bell, Talara Bamblett, and I think that was the top of my head. They're the ones I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ashley Pottinger was another one. Yep. And Kayana Lakini, Tyrese's sister. Yeah, so there's 6 from 2023 and 7 from 2024. So there's 13 girls up there, and again, credit to our pathway system and looking after the girls in our area.
And actually, those names don't really surprise, do they, John?
That would have been ones that, if you were following our updates for that season in 2023, they were regularly featured in game blogs and been highlighted as players that were key to the success we had in our push to the finals back in that season. So no surprise that they're progressing through to the senior squad. Now we go back to the finals in the junior reps this year, where the SG Ball unfortunately suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of the Bulldogs in their first week finals match. I think it's fair to say it was probably their worst effort of the season. Obviously, awful timing to put it on the field like that, but you put that result behind us, it happens, and we look at the players now, and we've already seen the likes of Mohamed Al-Madeen there, and Dakota Kakoi get a bit of time in the flag, and I know that Moe's been there for pretty much, 2-3 games now, 60s. We're looking to, obviously there is a plan to, but are we looking to elevate other players soon from that ball squad to the flag? And I suppose the follow-up to that is, when you elevate a young player from 19s to 21s, what sort of messaging do you give to them in terms of what are your key goals, both on a sort of micro-focus your game and as part of the team? Yeah, well,
you haven't seen it yet, but there's probably 9 to 10 SG ball players that have gone up, and they'll train with Jordan Rankin's team, and it gives him a few more numbers. So you might see a few more players pop up in the next few weeks into the team.
There was a bit of an injury crisis.
Yeah, they've been in the wars this season.
Yeah, they had a few injuries there, and I think there's probably a lot of teams in the Jersey Flag competition waiting for the SG ball to finish so they could bring players up.
Reinforcements in, yeah.
But some of those players, when you talk about messaging, some of those players that probably need to be playing at that level, just so we can see where they're at, and also to test them, because sometimes you can get comfortable at SG ball level. So you can see that with the players that are like Mohammed's, he's gone to the next level in relation to the way he's playing, and he was good in SG ball as well. But I'm really happy for him to be playing Jersey Flag and keeping his spot really. And
I actually think it might be a little bit of a big call, but I think he's made a difference coming into the team. I think he's really, like, the team has benefited from him coming into the squad.
You know, there's no doubt they have, and I know Jordan Rankers has been doing a lot of work with the players about simplifying what you're talking about, messages, simplifying, you know, do your jobs and things will turn, the tide will turn, you know, and focus on your own game. And I think that's what Mo done. Mo just focused on his own game, you know.
Yep.
You know, catching the balls as a winger, bringing the ball back, getting involved, you know, scoring your tries, you know, doing all those little things and kick chase. So all those little things is probably the message that you're giving to those sorts of players. But back yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, you didn't get to this level because you can't play football. You got this because you can play football. So back yourself. You know, and then with the guidance of the people around you and the coaches around you, you know, focus on your job and what you need to do to help the team.
Yeah, he's very good in yardage.
He loves the physicality in the ruck,
and other teams obviously know when he goes to dummy half that he's going to have a dart out of dummy half himself, but them knowing and them shutting him down it was, you know, different. And he's done it for a couple of years in the SG ball as it is, you know, they're getting in there and having critical runs. So, yeah, really, really good to see those elevations. You touched on the Jets program a little bit earlier, so we can assume that the Jets program's going to continue this season?
Yeah. So the Jets program will start on Monday, May 27th, I think it is, and it'll run, I think the girls will run for 7 weeks and the boys will run for about 9 weeks. Yeah, so every consecutive Monday, just focusing on positional skills, catch pass, decision making, you know, very positional. Each squad will have predominantly 15 to 16 players in those squads. And Josh Hodgson, myself and Mitch Lewis will be helping out with the boys, and obviously the NRL coaching staff, you know, Brad Arthur, Steve Murphy, Trem Barrett and Steve Antonelli. And then on the flip side, the girls will start again on Monday, May the 27th, and they'll go for about 6 to 7 weeks. And then we'll incorporate them in our NRLW Harvey Norman training sometimes on a Monday. And they're about 15 to 16 girls as well. So exciting stuff. I think it's the first time we've done that sort of Jets program for the girls. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I know because I've been helping out with it. But all the girls are excited. The letters have gone out for the girls' side, and the boys are the same. So really looking forward to starting that as well.
It's a really terrific program. I mean, over the years we've been privileged to see some of that program in action. I think it's gone up several notches since we first saw it. But I remember sitting in on a session with the young players and their families, and it was all about. I guess that it was the education aspect and the and welfare aspects and things like that, and just talking about lines of communication and, you know, what. And I guess there was a message as well about having two option A's, you know, with their 2 plan A's with what they're doing in their life, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is such a comprehensive program to, I guess, not just develop them as players, but I think develop them as people.
Yeah, so they'll have discussions on nutrition, discussions on fitness, weights, you know, how best to become a professional rugby league player, both the male and female side of things. So we've got Brendan there who does our strength and conditioning. He'll throw up the nutritional sheets up on there so they understand what they need to be eating, when they need to be eating, all that sort of stuff. So it's more just, you're correct, there's more in the Jets program than just training and football. There's, you know, all the other things outside of football and welfare and family, and as you said, you know, how can your mum and dad help?
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. So it's a pretty extensive program, and you hope that those players, you know, get to the next level when they do that. Their professionalism is of a standard where the coach is thinking, you know, I've got a good player here.
Yeah, it gives them an idea too about the demands, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes, definitely.
Of
Yeah.
being a professional.
And sharpening your mental faculties to become a professional athlete. And it's a cornball saying, but I love to say it to you, but the separations in the preparation, and how you handle yourself away from just game day and prepare yourself for games mentally, physically, nutrition, all that stuff. That's what goes into being an elite athlete in the modern day.
Because as you know, in that age group between 17 and 19, there's so many distractions outside of football.
Yep.
On social media, telephones, all those sorts of things, going out, friends. Yeah. So all that sort of stuff is probably very important to discuss for those players, and that JET program allows that.
Yeah, and I think there was a timely reminder too when we saw the jersey presentation to Ethan Sanders, and his mum in her quick presentation speech said to him about all the times when he stayed home rather than going out with the mates.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's
that's
what you say.
professionalism.
Yeah.
And obviously Ethan's going elsewhere from Parramatta, but he's made his debut at 19 years of age in NRL, and that's what it takes, is that sort of dedication.
He's made the sacrifices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of those players like Dylan Brown have come back and talked to the other players, say at SG Ball or Matt's level, about the sacrifices you need to make to be where he is.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important. When you've got access to players like that to come back and say that, and it has an effect on the players that are in those sorts of programs.
And you mentioned earlier in this podcast about the announcement of the female under-15s and under-14s academy squads, and how those sort of preparatory squads now bring the female pathways in alignment with the male in terms of getting ready for the junior pathways. So how important is that for the ladies that are playing rugby league in the west of Sydney and getting them ready for the junior reps?
Oh, I think it's very important. I think there's a squad of 41 14s and 15-year-olds, and I went up to the session on Monday up at Marist, and just the excitement on their face, having the Parramatta training shirt and training shorts on and running around with players and practicing all their their basics, their fundamentals. Just the look on their face, I thought, wow, Parramatta are doing this so well in relation to the pathway system, and I just think it's important because it's giving them a little bit of credit in their area of expertise, which is the sport that they're playing, to say, look, we recognise you're the best of our players at this age group, and we want to put a little bit of work into you, and also Parramatta looking after the players that are playing in their junior league.
I was going to say, Sixties, it's very hard to capture in a podcast, but whenever you interact with the NRLW, Harvey Norman Women's Premiership, Fiola and Gale and the reps, and obviously now the talent squads, the pure energy and excitement that comes from the female pathways right now, it is, something that, like I said, it's difficult to capture in a podcast, but it is very obvious, isn't it? Like just the positive vibes, whether it's at Parramatta or elsewhere, I imagine too.
Yeah.
The female pathways and the female space in rugby league is a tremendous place to be in terms of the growth of the game.
I mean, if you wanted to use the words, it's very real.
Yes.
And it's like you said before, it's the first time it's happened, and I think that excitement that you're seeing is them. They don't take it for granted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas probably when you look at I'm not saying the boys take it for granted.
No, but it's institutional.
It's been around. Yeah,
it's been around for a while, and
institutionalised.
you could say one on hand, it's expected for those boys to make those squads,
Yes.
but with the girls, it's like everything's like opening up a present on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
The excitement that they have of being picked for this 14s and 15s development squad.
And you love rugby league, but it's easy to be a cynic these days, isn't it? And sort of being involved in the female space almost brings you back to your roots and the purity of the game, watching them, how much they enjoy. And like I said, don't take for granted.
It's not about the money. It's about the shorts and the training shirt.
Well, one of the things that really brought that home to me as well, I mean, there's a host of things that always do, but last year, the trial against the Dragons at Granville Park, the match is over, the crowd's sort of milling around. The girls just went up and into the stands and they're talking to people. And it was like the actual joy of talking to supporters, and obviously there's family and friends there as well, but they're also talking to supporters and giving their time, and it's like they're not into the sheds. Their first move was up into the stands, talking to people.
You probably get certain coaches and strength and conditioners that would want to get into the changing room.
The warm down
Yeah,
shoulder,
rehab.
Yeah, of course. That's the professional aspect of it, Steve.
Yeah.
But it is that joy, and it was like, that was their first thought, But the other thing I was going to mention as well was we've been covering the Tarsha Gale since its inception.
9-a-side.
And it was, 9-a-side or whatever
It's
it was.
amazing how much it's moved
Oh,
forward.
well,
So rapidly. And
And I mean, when in the first season that we were watching, it was almost like the team that had the fastest players was going to do the damage, because it's like
just throw it to the fast
it's
winger
like watching
fullback.
sevens.
Yeah. It's what the under eights, when you coach the under eights, you get the ball to the fastest
first,
player.
exactly. Yeah, so there were obviously the forwards that were in the game that weren't quite as mobile, but if you had the faster players, you were going to do the damage. But the other thing I was going to say as well was what happened at that time as well was you got the trials that would happen for girls that wanted to play in the Tarsha Gale team, and I'm sure there's still trials that happen. But when you got the pathways, that's a whole different thing, because you're tracking the progress and helping to develop players from 14s and 15s before they get to that, even
to
the
that
Lisa
age
Fiala
group,
and Tarsha Gale. You've actually got a program that's working rather than who's going to turn up and trial
Yeah.
for the team this year.
And again, I suppose that goes back to Parramatta looking after the players that are playing in our junior competition. We're identifying the best female players in that age group, 14 and 15, and then we're giving him, a little bit of education, like you talked about before, what's it like nutrition-wise, what's it like to be a professional, the distractions outside and what you need to do to make it. So I think that's a plus in itself. And I think, as I said before, it's one of the better pathway systems I've seen. And for the female side, I don't know what the other clubs are like, but this is very good. This is very good.
And just on that NRLW, we've just had the news about Abbi Church signing a new 3-year deal. We certainly believe she's been close to the Eels' most consistent performer in the 3 seasons so far. What do you see as her strengths?
I've had a little bit of time with Abbi, and I suppose her biggest strength is her enthusiasm, her intensity, her standards that she tries to uphold at training. She's a good leader, and everyone loves Abbi. And for her position as a fullback, she's a good communicator. All the things that you'd want in a rugby league player.
Is she like your NRLW version of Gutho then? Because you seem to be describing a lot of similar qualities to
she's a hard worker. She does everything, and she leaves no stone unturned. So if you wanted to compare her to Gutho, mentally and physically, that's Abbi. And I've been very impressed with her application to everything that we've talked about in relation to footy and getting right. And she's talked to me about what she wants out of the year and how she wants the teams to be holding a standard at training and making sure that we're prepared for games. So she's a very impressive person, and she's a paramedic as well.
Yes.
She has a very good background in relation to sport and what you need physically to be in that sport. So she's a very impressive person.
You talked about mental strength before with the Jet squad and what it takes to be an elite athlete or work in a high intensity role, and a paramedic certainly covers that.
Yeah,
that is I got plenty of time and respect for people that work on the front lines there. So Abbi, obviously a big part of the Parramatta Eels plan, and while the roster hasn't been finalised, we are moving towards that getting done, which brings us closer and closer to the NRLW preseason. Where are we at that, Steve? What sort of is the time frame? And
so we'll start in the next 1 or 2 weeks. The induction we'll have on Monday. Everyone getting together. Hello. Obviously they haven't seen each other for a while.
Yeah.
And then the preceding weeks, the Harvey Norman and then NRLW will train, and then obviously it'll pick up through the next few weeks, and then we'll have trials and into the season. So, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just around the corner. Felt like when we first started talking that it was ages away, but now
it's
here
come
before
around
you know
real
it.
quick, hasn't it? And everyone's going to be available in terms of fitness. There's no lingering injuries coming into this preseason?
No. I mean, I think everyone will be fit. Cassie, Rachel, and Kennedy have been training with the New South Wales Blues.
I was going to touch on that. Yeah.
So they'll probably be a little bit fitter than the other girls that come back. But they've been looking after themselves. We've kept on. Brendan Inkster, strength and conditioners, kept an eye on all the girls, and they've all reported in and made sure. And Matt Stewart, our physio,
Matty's great value.
Yeah, he's made sure that everyone's ready to go. Made sure that all the injuries are being taken care of, and they hit the ground running for our first pre-season. So, and it's but as I said before, I think I'm not too sure if the selections were today, but I think Rachel may have made.
I believe that she is part of the squad.
Wales, which is great for her. I think she deserves it. I'm looking forward to her and Elsie and obviously Kennedy and a few of those other players playing a full season. I know last year it was riddled with injury, so hopefully things can turn around for them this year.
We got to see, I think, one game or half a game with Tyler and Elsie together in the front row, and they absolutely carved the Broncos up, who were the best team in the competition at the time. Then Elsie did her calf, I think it was, so it'd be very nice to have them on the field. We look forward to obviously tracking their progress past the preseason into the competition proper. And I don't know if I have a chance to catch up for you at that point because you're going to be pretty busy. But we do thank you massively for taking the time throughout the entirety of the junior reps as well as now the NRLW preseason to sit down and have a chat for us about the state of the game for the pathways and for the NRLW. Steve, it's much appreciated, and I know that fans love listening to the insight that you provide.
No worries. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Craig.